Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's success story, where we are going to be talking with Christina. And thank you so much for being here with us, Christina. It's really a pleasure to have you. So I can't wait to hear everything you have to say. It sounds like we're going to have a lot of great things to talk about. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk about my match story.
Perfect. Well, where did you end up matching and in what specialty?
I ended up matching at UConn's University of Connecticut, and I matched into a preliminary year of general surgery.
Okay, so it's just a preliminary year, so that's your PGY1. What is the plan for next match or after the PGY1 in prelim surgery?
So my plan was always try and get into, not try and get to get into orthopedic. I have to talk myself into it and give myself positive thoughts all day and every day. But the plan is to match into orthopedic surgery, and prelim is just one of the paths that you can take in order to get there if you don't match the first cycle.
hmm So, where did this dream come from for orthopedic surgery, and how do you see yourself getting there?
Uh, I don't really remember how it got started. I know I always wanted to do surgery, and then I've shadowed multiple surgeons in different subspecialties, and somehow, ortho it wasn't like an aha moment, but it was more of like, oh, I want to see this again. I want to see this again. And then overall, it's just become uh, sort of, yeah, like a goal and a dream. It's um, like a love that I've created for it, like over time. So it wasn't just like, I saw a knee replacement, which was the first surgery I saw. And I was like,
Okay.
oh, this is it. So sometimes I think the more time you spend developing that passion for something, then it's become something that you're so true, like you stay true to, which is why orthopedic surgery is just it for me. And I am just trying to find a way to get there. So it's more of a matter of when and how at this point for me.
hmm Are you working with any specific advisors in that field or people that you know who are currently doing that, that are able to help advise you or help network in terms of getting there?
So that's one of the questions I do get asked often, is how did I even get there to where I am today? And coming from Caribbean schools, it is tough to try and it's tough to get into ortho period, but Caribbean schools is sort of, they make it seem like it's completely impossible, which is false. So Caribbean schools don't tend to help out with rotations or advising when it comes to something other than what they try and steer us into, right, in Caribbean schools. And so after I finished my step one, I just moved to Florida for before starting my third year. And I just started emailing, calling like different orthopedic doctors, orthopedic institutes around here for research, for shadowing. And like 99% of them said no, just because, the paperwork wouldn't work or you're in Caribbean. So a lot of reasons why not. But all it took is for one person to say yes for me to shadow. And then from there, just kind of from there, it's a network, right? Everybody knows everybody type of thing. So from there, I was able to shadow a neurosurgeon, which is how I fell in love with spine, which is what I want to do in the very long run. And then when it came to research, it was the same thing. I just emailed a bunch of people. Most said no, but one person said yes. And I ended up doing volunteering as a researcher in an orthopedic lab in Miami Institute for the last like 3 years almost. So it was all through just trying to, knock on every door. And I always say, to people that there's a good Russian proverb, and it's, if they don't let you through the doors, then just climb through the windows, like something like that. So that was
Perfect.
kind of the way to do it.
And did you use letters of recommendation from those experiences in your application? Because you did apply to orthopedic surgery and preliminary surgery, both?
hmm Yeah.
Okay.
So all of my letters of recommendations came from orthopedic surgeons. There is one orthopedic surgeon that I did a rotation with through my school, through AUA. And yeah, so I got a letter from him, got a couple letters from the people that I've shadowed, and a couple letters from people that I've done research with, but they were all orthopedic related. So even when I had my prelim general surgery like interviews, they immediately, they were like, your application kind of screams ortho. So is that what you want to do? And I'm like, yeah, because most of I mean, all of my research is in orthopedics. So there's probably not like one paper that's something outside of it or the letters of rec. So, but yeah, that's where I got most of my LORs.
And when those questions came up in the interviews, how did they take that? Were they like, okay, that's good, or did they think anything of your pursuit of ortho?
So most programs, I mean, when they take in preliminary students, they kind of know that they'll be taken in people that are passionate about something else, right? I mean, like some of them do end up trying to go into general surgery and then they do prelim gen surge and then they try to get a categorical spot. But maybe 50% of students that do end up getting preliminary year, they want to do something else because a lot of those spots are actually open through SOAP. So like if you don't match and then you SOAP, most of the spots are going to be prelim general surgery. And so I think a lot of people end up doing that year with hopes of becoming something else, and it just depends on the program that I only applied to a few, and the few ones that I did apply are the ones that had orthopedic surgery like on the like in that same hospital, because it wouldn't make sense for me to apply prelim gym search and then have no ortho in that hospital whatsoever. So again, it's all through research, all through looking up online, like which hospitals have both and everything. So but at the end of the day, everybody was very welcoming. And again, where I got accepted to UConn, they know everything about me wanting to do ortho. And, I already started reaching out to the ortho department there now, like today and yesterday. So I would kind of, trying to put my steps into there.
Yeah, so you're not wasting any time making
No,
sure that your interest is known for
no.
getting into the ortho program. So just to clarify, UConn has the preliminary position that you have your PGY1 with, and they also have the orthopedic surgery residency training track. So you're trying to get your foot in the door for that
Yeah,
orthopedic
nothing.
residency.
Yeah. And again, nothing is ever guaranteed, right? It's my hopes, but because I'll be there, then I'll be able to, either like rotate with them or just take calls with the ortho residents come to their, didactics, fracture lectures, like anything that they have, like journal clubs, anything that they will have. And I have free time from general surgery. Like I have like, 2 hours off, then that's where I'm going to be, is like try to make up my time there. And then this way people get to know me. And again, like I said, they may not be, they might not like what they see, because I'm not gonna, not everybody is gonna think that I fit into their program, and that's okay. But that's why there's so many programs, and what we do is that's why it's called a match. It's like you try to find the best program for you, and they only want the residents that they think will fit in their program. So, but that's what I'm gonna do for now, is just try my hardest for them to see me and look at me and possibly consider me.
Now, did you ever have people telling you not to pursue ortho or saying that you couldn't do it or it's a bad idea?
Yes, probably most of what I known, but um not like family, of course, like my family, my friends, everybody's always been supportive. And I got very lucky that the people that I did shadow and where I did do my research, they have been very supportive of me. But it's because they actually got to know me and they see how bad I want this. They see how hard I'm willing to work for all of this. And when they see that, I don't think they look at, whether you're an IMG or a US student, they look more at what you bring forward when you come to the OR, clinics, etc. But when it comes to, let's say, like other like departments of school, right? Like, of course, they understandably worry about match rates, right? I mean, that is their job and that's what they do. And so I did receive a lot of calls and a lot of emails and a lot of texts from our like directors and like clinical directors, like everybody, to just kind of, hey, like, you're kind of barking up the wrong tree here. And that's like the quote, that they use.
Oh man.
And then, one of the other things they like to say is, you'll never become an orthopedic surgeon. And then they even told me that surgery would be out of my reach and maybe I should do OBGYN. But even then, I should just do internal medicine. And that was kind of like the calls and emails that I was receiving. And it's very discouraging,
Yeah.
for anybody to hear. And I'm not the only one. I'm not the first one. I mean, I've heard this happening to multiple people, especially those that have been trying to pursue surgery or orthopedic surgery, neurosurgery, whatever it is, you know. But again, yes, it's discouraging, but I think my dream is like bigger than me feeling sad or bad about what people are telling me.
Hmm.
And yeah, that would be it for that one.
So, what is your internal conversation when you get those calls or emails that helps you keep pushing forward and just putting your dream into that bigger perspective and being able to keep moving forward with what you truly want?
Oh, it was tough at first. It really was. And I think a lot of times I did second guess myself, right? Just, I remember coming home sometimes and crying to my mom, and I would be like, listen, I was like, maybe this isn't it, right? Like maybe I should be doing something else. And I was like, this is too hard, and maybe it's just too much to put on my shoulders at this point, right? But then like I wake up the next day and I'm like, no, like doesn't matter. Like doesn't matter what anybody thinks. Like I'll be fine. This is my dream. And to me, I always say that if somebody else has done it, like why can't you? And even if somebody else hasn't done it, there's always a first for everything, and there are always ways to get there. And to me, I just had to really, I always say like wear kind of, and pink is my favorite color. So I always say like, oh, like I have to wear pink glasses type of thing, right? To like all the negativity. So like as soon as somebody, like when I used to get those calls at first, I was like, okay, this is rough. Like maybe I really shouldn't do this. But then once I start receiving more of those, I was like, okay, like now it's just annoying, and I don't really care what you have to say. And that's exactly what I told them on the phone too. I was like, listen, it's like I appreciate your advice, and like with all due respect, I will not listen to it. I will not follow what you're telling me. Like, I will follow my dream. And I was like, I don't need your approval for this, but I do need your help to maybe set up some rotations for me if I can in orthopedic surgery. And everything that I've did, like try to set up for ortho, everything has just gone to like nowhere. It was never, just because of like how strongly they feel that I shouldn't have done what I'm pursuing, which is orthopedic surgery. And yeah, but it's a lot of internal, like you said, like it's more of internal talk. It's more of, no, like this is what you want. Like, why would you want to do something else for the rest of your life? If that's what you're not enjoying, or if ortho is it, then keep going. And it might take, a couple of years. Like I might not match next year, and I'll do a year of research, and hopefully after that I'll match. But there's so many stories, and people do research for 2, 3, 4 years and then finally match into orthopedics. And I'm young, I have all the time in the world. So to me, it's just, um, I put in my personal statement too at the end. It's like plans B, C, D, and every letter of the alphabet is going to end with ortho. It's just, I have to find the plan that fits for me.
And it seems that other people are reaching out to you and asking questions about your journey, whether that's through social media and things. Do you feel like you've helped influence other people to pursue their dreams like that in the same way?
Oh, I hope so. I mean, just today I got a message from somebody saying like, oh, well, I got, like, I think like, 220 on step one. And it's just like, it's nowhere near um, where I should be pursuing surgery, but that's my dream and that's what I want. And I'm like, well, you kind of answer your own questions, right? Like, this is your dream. And like, step scores do not matter whatsoever. And I am a completely average student. I have not scored above average on either one of my steps or done, on tests at school. Like I probably, which is why I was given those advices from school that maybe you shouldn't pursue surgery. But again, there's so much more to your application than just those numbers. And it's just so sad that people sometimes don't believe enough in themselves to look past that, right, on their own application. And I mean, I hope I've helped other people. I mean, I do get positive responses saying thank you. And, like, yes, you're right. This is exactly like, this is what I want. I'm going to keep fighting for it. But everybody has a different timeline, right? Like, we're not all the same age when we go into, especially Caribbean schools. So I know some people that are in their 30s and they're just kind of like, well, I do want general surgery, but I don't want to work for it for the next 3, 4 years because I just kind of need a job now. And if internal medicine is easier, then that's what I'll do. But again, to me, I give advice from my perspective, right? And then like the place that I'm in. And I just hope that I am able to help other people and then they have taken my advice.
What do you feel was the strongest aspect of your application when you were applying? Was it the letters that you had, or maybe the experiences in your ARIS application?
I think the strongest, I mean, the weakest, I'll tell you, obviously, is my step scores in being IMG, but that was something that I couldn't change anymore. And now, even when I email program directors, I ask them, like I had ortho interviews and they didn't match in ortho. So I emailed the program directors where I didn't match and I said, what could I do to strengthen my application? Like, is there something that you were looking for, but I have yet to attain it? And if there is something, let me know and I will go get it, type of thing. Right. So then I think the strongest was more of maybe my personal statement, because again, I just screamed ortho. And then my letters of recommendations, I know they were great because every person that, they wrote, which I mean, people ask me like, oh, did they write it? Did you write it and then gave it to them and they just signed it? Or did they write it themselves? And I mean, every person that wrote my letter, they wrote it themselves and they really fought for me. They're like 2-page letters sometimes, which I was like, maybe nobody will actually read this. But, they're like, no, like they need to know, that you are more than just an international grad. And like, I want them to look past all of that. Like, I want them to see you like for your hard work, resilience, and like for me being my pushy self.
And so when you say they would ask you, do you mean in the interview they asked you if you wrote the letters of recommendation for your authors?
No, they don't ask in the interview, but students have asked me before,
Okay,
well,
students.
when I'm trying to attain a letter of recommendation, like very often it does happen. Everybody knows, I mean, all the program directors do this, attendings do this, students do this. Like you write your own letter, you write, like anything that you want in there, and then they read it. If they like it, they just sign it, right? Because sometimes attendings, especially surgeons, they just don't have time to sit there and write a personal letter. And unless they really like you and they really want to push for you, then they will make the time to sit down and be like, hey, like I want to help this person. But again, it doesn't happen to everybody. It just happens to those that are, like let's say most people that I've worked with, it's been like 2-3 years that I've been around and I've been working and showing up and like never missing deadlines, etc. So when students do ask me, then because sometimes they're like, oh, like what's like a good template, and I mean, no attendings are listening to this, right?
Right.
And like I wish I had one. I really don't, but like a template for it. But again, you can always Google things. But my best advice would be to make those connections, strong enough where people want to help you themselves and where they want to write something personal about you. Because when you have something more personal in the letters, like they can tell, because everybody's gonna use the same thing. Like, oh, this person is in top 10 of like of students I've ever seen, and they're hardworking and they're great, and I recommend them. And that's like how every letter sounds. But when they do it themselves, it's very different.
Definitely. Now, when you were taking your interviews, you did have multiple ortho interviews, correct?
Yes.
So how did those go? Like, what was the most memorable aspects of those interviews specifically?
Just getting them. No,
Yeah.
no, I remember receiving my first ortho interview and I just started crying right away. I mean, I'm a crier. So, but it was emotional, because I, like some of them, I know how hard I worked to even get those interviews, period. Like not just, getting in. Like at some point I was like, oh my God, I got interviews. Like I don't even need this residency. I'm just so happy that I got some interviews. And then like next cycle, hopefully they, give them to me again, which is why obviously it's very big to stay in touch with everybody you network with, like every person you meet, LinkedIn, Instagram, I don't know, any students that you meet, like save everybody's phones, talk to everybody, like email. Like I have so many emails, probably like outgoing emails to every ortho program director there is. Like when we first found out that everything is going to be through Zoom and online, the first thing I did was literally find every program, like orthopedic surgery program coordinator's email. And I mean, it took a very long time. It took me days. And I just copy paste, I'm this and this. Here's my CV. I'm passionate about orthopedics. And do you have any virtual opportunities at this time that I could attend? Because a lot of programs would hold open houses. They did lectures, all this stuff. And both of the interviews that I had for orthopedics, they were because of that. So I ended up doing a presentation at one of them because again, I emailed and I found out, and that program was like, I'm not gonna name names just because like, I still obviously want it for next year. So hopefully still hoping for that. But again, I emailed and that program is way out of my reach because they are minimum for their step scores were like 245s and 250s to even get an interview. And I'm nowhere close to that. And so getting that interview, this is when I start crying. But it was more, again, emailing and emailing and emailing, and somebody will respond. Like, sometimes you just need one person to respond. And then I attended every virtual opportunity that they gave, everything that they had.
That sounds like really good advice, especially for IMGs trying to get into more difficult specialties, is
Yeah.
utilizing that residency network and going above and beyond in terms of reaching out to really put yourself out there and take those extra steps. So I think that's really valuable advice. Um, if you had to do the season over again, or you had the opportunity,
Mhm.
is there anything that you might change?
Uh, Geez, I don't know, attend more meetings, meet
Yeah.
more people, because I always think there is, you know, I'm a fear of being stagnant is what I always say, right? So then I always think that if I did something, there's got to be a better way to do it again, right? So then because I'm learning, it's obviously all a learning process. My first cycle, I don't really have anybody to help me like through this cycle to advise, on what to do. And it was a learning experience, just kind of like jumped in and did it. But mostly I think, more emailing, more like right before, when I sent out applications, I remember emailing, I don't know, maybe 50 different programs, right? And I was like, hi, I sent my application, my step scores are this, I'm an IMG, but I just want to like asking for a chance to be looked at, like at least not even, because some of these programs they have filters. Again, like I said, like for that one program, they have their filter is like 245 for step one. And so I would
Mhm.
have never gotten that interview if I didn't reach out, if I didn't prepare, an oral presentation, if I didn't again reach out when I submitted applications saying, hey, like, please look at it. And that's what I did. And to me, I think what I would have done over again is just done more of it, like a lot more.
Perfect. There's always more, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, it sounds like you were putting forth a great deal of effort nonetheless. Um, now, where do you see yourself going with, your career? Obviously, orthopedic surgery, but is there anything specific you were hoping to add to medicine or add to the medical community, or anything in particular that you have your sights on in terms of accomplishing throughout your time in medicine and your career?
I think more, I mean, personally for me, yes, orthopedic surgery and then getting, a spine fellowship and going into ortho spine. So that's something I'm extremely passionate about. And I love spine, like every bit of it. And I think it's a perfect combo for, in spine, it's very articulate and small. And on your, good days, you can do spine. And then on the days that you're, having a bad day, it's always nice to have like a hammer by your side and just like hammer into something and like the big surgeries, right? Like hips and knees and stuff. So I think it's a perfect balance between the two. But other than that, I think somehow my main role lately has become to encourage more and to, because I started seeing how many people are out there that are being told no, and then they're like, oh, okay. And then they end up doing something completely different. And how many stories this year I know that people applied to, they wanted something else. Let's say they wanted surgery, and then they applied to internal medicine as backup. But again, it's like a completely different profession. It's not even like anywhere near to what you say you want to do. But they applied as backup because that is the advice that we're always given as IMGs. And then they do end up getting internal medicine, and they're sad, and internal medicine is great. I'm not always saying, it's just like that's what we're pushed to do, internal, family, whatever it is that they advise us to do most of the time. And their advice for me was internal medicine, which is why I use it as an example. But so many of them end up being sad. And then there are things they can do. They can probably, break contract at some point and then reapply again after, a certain amount of years. But why? Right? So like to me, I didn't leave myself a choice. So it was, for me, it's always ortho, right? And then my backup is prelim general surgery, again, just so I can kind of maneuver my way into ortho. It's like, to me, there's a good saying that I like too, something about like, don't downgrade your dream, but just try to make it reality. And so it's like I live like every day when I wake up, I'm like, okay, so I am not giving myself a choice, right? Like ortho is what I want. And there's like nothing else that exists in this world to me. It's like there's only one job, right? And there's like thousands of us applying for it. And there's like nothing else that I can do to earn money. So like I gotta do something. So I gotta apply for ortho. But I think that mentality too, like that there's nothing else that exists. Just that, just one job for the rest of your life, right? And if I don't get it, then I'm gonna be like, homeless, no job, no money. But there's only one thing for me, and that's that.
Perfect. Well, I really hope that within the next 6 to 12 months that we can have a follow-up interview after you've matched into orthopedic surgery. And that
Hope.
would be really amazing. So putting it out there. Do you have any, closing thoughts? You've shared so much incredibly valuable, insight and inspiration and encouragement. So any final thoughts for us?
Let's see. I love using quotes, right? So that I always have
Perfect.
so many good ones. No, but my main ones that I always talk about is, unless you ask, it's always going to be a no. Unless you show up, you're never going to get anywhere, right? And then the only way that you will fail at something is if you stop trying, right? So like the only way, to me, I won't get into ortho is if I just don't apply. Other than that, no matter how many years it's going to take, and I'm saying years because it's totally possible, like it can be next year, 2 years, 3 years from now, it could be anything. Hopefully not, but you know,
Yeah,
hopefully like 1 or 2 years and I'll get there. And so to me, I think sometimes it's like you are your only limit, right? So it's always here and like in your head that like, oh, well, my step score is this, so no, I can't do it. But no, people have done it. People have gotten, surgeries with 196s in step one, like people do it and you can too. And your only limit is just yourself and nobody else.
perfect. I think that's an incredible way to end the interview. Just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to share all your insights and inspire everybody in the IMG community and even outside the IMG community. So thank you so much, and we're looking forward to hopefully talking to you again soon. So thank you again and take care.
Thank you for having me.